This video is sponsored by Opera. This map shows every college football national champion in America since 1998. And 20 of those winners came from this particular region. For years now, college football's balance of power has leaned toward the South. Whether it's the national champions, the Heisman winners, or the five-star recruits, they all overwhelmingly come from a stretch of land running from Texas to the Carolinas. That's what you call dominance. And nothing about it should come as a surprise. Because here, college football is on a different level. But why here? Why does one region of America produce more football power than the rest of the country combined? What makes the South so special for it to become a breeding ground for the best college football has to offer? The answer lies in the map itself, in the way geography, culture, and history align perfectly to create football's most powerful ecosystem. Now, that's not to say that collegiate football means less to someone in the Rust Belt or to anyone out west. But in these parts, that brand of the sport dominates the culture, and I'll tell you why that it's the only natural outcome. To understand why the South rules college football, we need to go way back, to when the region was redefining itself after the Civil War. In the late 1800s, after the Confederacy's defeat in the American Civil War, the South was a region rebuilding its identity. Its economy had collapsed, its political influence had faded, and as industry and wealth shifted northward, much of the South was left behind in poverty. So the region began searching for symbols of pride, and that pride was found in colleges. At the time, many Southern universities were small and underfunded compared to their northern counterparts, but they were some of the few institutions still capable of uniting local communities. And when the game of football began spreading from northern campuses, Southern schools took notice. What began as a northern pastime, born out of Ivy League competition, eventually migrated south. Simultaneously, as the sport spread, a network of land-grant universities began shaping higher education across the country. This became an outlet for state pride. I won't go into too much detail about the system, but it's one of the biggest reasons why college football is popular in America. If you do want to learn more about these land-grant universities, I talk about it more in depth in my other video, The Death of College Football in the Northeast, so check that out when you're done here. Over time, these land-grant schools became anchors of civic life, and football became their unifying event. By the early 1900s, football continued to spread across the country. For Southern schools, beating a northern opponent held symbolic weight when you consider the outcome of the Civil War. It was a way to show that the South could still compete on a national stage. At the time when few other institutions offered that kind of recognition, the sport became a new source of pride and validation. Eventually, rivalries began to take shape, and this transformed college stadiums into battlegrounds of state identity while drawing tens of thousands to small towns that otherwise had very little reason to gather. Suddenly, football became the thread that tied these communities together. Schools like Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida evolved into surrogate national teams. And for the working class families in the relatively poorer South, college football was the most accessible form of big-time sports entertainment since tickets were affordable and campuses were local. Everything about it felt personal. By the mid-20th century, towns across the South moved in step with the football calendar. But that wasn't unique to the area. Fans in the Midwest and the Great Plains lived for Saturdays just as much. What really set the South apart, however, was its geography. The best way to ingrain a sport into a region's culture is to have it be accessible all the time. And that's the key to Southern schools' domination. With the South being, well, south, the region's humid subtropical climate allows football to be played and practiced nearly year-round. While players in northern states spend months indoors due to lower temperatures and heavier precipitation, athletes in Louisiana, Mississippi, and other Bible Belt states have the ability to train outside through the winter and the spring. Think about young kids who fell in love with the sport. There's no off-season when organizing a game with friends or playing catch outside in the yard with family. For those living in unfavorable conditions, it makes it a bit more challenging to get involved. But although geography may hinder people's ability to play the game year-round, many of us still spend time researching it, reading about it, or watching it online. And this brings me to today's sponsor, Opera, which played a huge role in helping me create the video you're watching now. Since I started using Opera, it didn't take me long to realize that this browser is built for multitasking. For starters, you'll notice that tab organization with Opera is extremely satisfying. Features like tab islands and tab traces make managing dozens of tabs feel effortless. Tab islands let you group related tabs together, while tab traces adds a subtle visual trace indicating which tabs you've used most recently. While making this video, I use tab islands extensively to keep my script writing, map animation research, and online store separated yet easy to find, all while being able to collapse and expand them if needed. And when tabs filled up my browser, tab traces help me easily retrace my steps with a useful underscore. The darker the underscore, the more recent the visit. Speaking of tabs, if you find yourself flipping between two tabs often, the split screen feature is your best friend. With split screen, you're able to have two tabs side by side in the same window, making it perfect for multitasking and enhancing productivity. There's no need to have two browser windows up at the same time anymore. And to take multitasking even further, Opera's video pop-out tool is a multitasker's dream. You can detach any video and move it anywhere on screen, so you can keep an eye on what you're watching while performing another task on your computer. You can even move it outside the browser window. All of this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can also alter your browser's theme, allowing you to customize every aspect yourself. Personally, I like to switch between Aurora and Midsummer, depending on if I'm feeling a light mode or dark mode. Plus, there's a floating music player that lets you control your music seamlessly, and it automatically pauses when a video is being played. This works with streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music, among others. So whether you're juggling dozens of tabs or just want a smoother way to browse, Opera is the smart, fully featured browser you need to try. Seriously, try Opera today. Use the link in the description below and give it a download, because this will enhance your browsing experience. Now, back to the video. So with the extra time the South had with the pigskin, the interest and ability from residents from these states compounded over generations, and the numbers reflect that. No region produces more high school football players per capita than the Deep South. Mississippi leads the nation, with Alabama and Texas close behind. All while states like New York sit near the bottom of the list. The contrast says everything about where football opportunity truly lives. The way these states are laid out can also be seen as a contributing factor. Unlike major population hubs where large plots of land are hard to come by, these states with their smaller towns and abundance of land make it easier to build fields, schools, and training programs near population centers. Local communities could rally behind their own programs without being overshadowed by metropolitan entertainment or professional teams. It gave the South the kind of grassroots infrastructure that constantly fed new talent into the college system. Combine that with the high school football culture unmatched anywhere else, and the South becomes a factory for developing talent. This means that when it comes time for those players to choose a college, most don't stray very far, because they don't have to. They stay close to home, feeding the SEC and Big 12 with the very athletes the region raised. This creates a self-reinforcing ecosystem, a cycle where weather, culture, and proximity are combined to keep talent close and competition local. And when this region forms its own tight-knit sports culture, it naturally builds rivalries.
For the win! Caught! It's gone! LSU does it!
With the South's compact regional layout, powerhouse programs are condensed within driving distance of one another, giving fans easy access to some of the biggest matchups in the sport. Alabama and Auburn are separated by just 160 miles, Ole Miss and Mississippi State less than 100, and Florida and Georgia fans routinely meet every year in Jacksonville. These are rivalries that live and die in the South's backyard, and it makes a day trip possible for fans of either school. Unlike the NFL, where following a team might require flights or expensive hotel tickets, college football's biggest matchups were always somewhat nearby. And that brings me to the major elephant in the room. Barring a few cities, major professional sports are absent in this region. The Deep South has only a handful of major cities that can claim professional sports franchises. This isn't the clustered metropolitan Northeast or the Rust Belt with its long history of established teams. The region's only primary hubs, New Orleans, Memphis, Atlanta, and Jacksonville, host just 7 franchises across the 4 major leagues, and only 3 of which are in the NFL. Now, we can sit and argue in the comments section about where the borders of the Deep South start and end, and the number of these cities could change based off of these loose frontiers. But by and large, this region is desolate when it comes to hubs that could host professional franchises. This population distribution is why it took so long for a pro team to even consider coming in from the north. Atlanta got its AFL team in 1962, New Orleans got the Saints in '67, and the Jaguars appeared in Jacksonville in the mid-90s. Now factor in that Charlotte and Nashville got a team in '95 and '97 respectively. This region and professional football don't have much history together. Meanwhile, in small towns like Tuscaloosa, Baton Rouge, and Athens, college football rarely had to compete with professional sports or big city entertainment, because it was the entertainment, all on its own. So much so that stadiums here grew to sizes that nearly matched the populations of their host cities. So despite pro football's absence here, the region was doing fine while providing southern hospitality to the sport at the college level. And for the most part, this relationship between the college game and the South has only gotten stronger. By the late 20th century, the foundations the South had built around college football had evolved into measurable dominance. No region benefited more from this than the one defined by the Southeastern Conference, better known simply as the SEC. The SEC's footprint covers the richest talent-producing territory in America. Florida, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Tennessee is a corridor that produces more elite recruits than the rest of the country combined. Within this belt, the best athletes grow up in the best high school programs that feed into the country's best college system, all while never straying far from home. That proximity gives SEC schools an enormous recruiting advantage. Alabama can fill its roster without crossing the Mason-Dixon line, and Georgia can win national titles with a majority of players from within the state. Population trends have only strengthened this advantage. Over the past few decades, population growth across the Sun Belt has accelerated dramatically. These states have added millions of residents, expanding the pool of potential athletes while fueling economic investment in sports infrastructure. But while these trends favor the South, new challenges do lie ahead for the sport and the region alike. Recently, college football has entered a new era. With the rise of NIL rules and the freedom of the transfer portal, players now have unprecedented mobility and earning power. The question many are asking is, can the money and movement finally tilt the balance of power away from the South? Because all this has certainly shaken up recruitment. Let's talk about NIL. NIL, short for name, image, and likeness, refers to a system that allows college athletes to profit from their personal brand, whether through endorsements, sponsorships, or business deals. It's a major shift from decades of strict amateurism. While the concept sounds straightforward, there's no official record keeping. The value and number of NIL deals aren't public, so it makes it impossible to track who's spending what or how much competitive balance it's influencing. This new landscape has already reshaped recruiting. Instead of luring potential talent by pitching them the school story and football program, colleges now compete through financial collectives designed to pool donor money for NIL opportunities. Northern powerhouses like Michigan and Ohio State have already embraced this model, combining their academic prestige with deep pockets and massive alumni networks. Even Nick Saban, college football's most successful modern coach, has acknowledged that the South's geographic advantage could soon be changing.
The culture in college football right now with name, image, and likeness has actually maybe hurt the SEC a little bit and helped the schools up north.
Okay.
Because if you're making your decision about money, then these people are going to be more willing to move.
When players can earn substantial income wherever they go, the allure of staying close to home may weaken. Talent today has the ability to become more mobile than ever before. But we can't ignore that geography still matters, maybe more than most realize. Even if financial incentives even out across the country, the South's advantages that took a century to establish has set a natural floor for its success. These major SEC schools and the weight of their brand isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So while NIL money might redistribute individual talent, the foundation remains firm. The same forces that turn the South into college football's heartland, its weather, its community ties, and its cultural devotion, they're not going anywhere. The sport may be evolving, but geography still shapes who rules it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more sports geography content. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.